The big question on everyone's mind, can Dodge fit a V8 inside the 2025 Dodge Charger 6-pack models? Now, Dodge will not confirm or deny it, but let's break it down with actual engine dimensions and why I believe that a V8 is 100% possible, even if Stellantis doesn't want you to know it yet. The weather's warming up, which means it is time to bring your favorite ride out of hibernation. And what better way to kick off the season than by saving up to 15% off on the top aftermarket accessories for your muscle car, pony car, truck, or SUV. My friends at Just Bolt-Ons and DragRacingWheels.com have you covered. Use my promo code BUTTER at checkout, and if you need some sticky Mickeys, you got till March 31st to save up to $100 on a set of tires. So don't wait. Hit up my friends at Just Bolt-Ons and DragRacingWheels.com, where the best deals online just got even better. If you believe some articles, they will tell you that the V8 will not fit inside of a Charger, but the dimensions say otherwise when you look at the engines. Now, Dodge is going to only offer the 3.0 liter Hurricane inline-sixes in the new Charger. One version is going to have like 420 horsepower, and then the high output version is going to have 550 horsepower. But here's the issue that I'm going to think is going to be with these vehicles. The cheapest 2025 Charger with the Hurricanes is probably going to be $45,000 based on the price of a similarly equipped Ram 1500, which those two prices are not typically that far off. Now, that's a huge jump from the previous base model of the 2023 Dodge Challenger that was about $33,000, which means Dodge has priced out budget buyers in this next generation of Dodge vehicles. And just between you, me, and the over 39,000 subscribers and the 63% of you guys not subscribed, it'll be a perfect base for a Hellcat swap, which I fully believe that Cal SRT or one of these other YouTubers is going to do one of these swaps sometime this summer. I'm just saying. So let's compare the engine sizes. Now, I got these sizes online, especially at Dodge Garage for the Hemi sizes, and then I started looking around for any information or videos I can find about any potential Hurricane swaps out there. And so I have to say that after looking through some videos and footages and looking around the forums, I fully believe that a Hemi or a Pentastar will fit inside of this next generation Charger. And let's just take a look and see. Now, if we look at these numbers, the Hurricane inline-six is basically taller and wider than the Hemi V8 engine. Now, I know you're wondering like, hey, how is this possible? There is no way you can tell me that an inline-six engine is taller and wider than a V8 Hemi. Now, if you go look at this video right here that I found, this is a perfect video to prove my point here. Now, this right here is a Challenger drag pack, basically the old body style. And this was at Roadkinites either 2 or 3 years ago. It had a Hurricane engine swap. I found this video right here pretty interesting because now you can see under the hood and now we can see how it fits in the engine bay. And so if you look back there in the back at that plastic cowl piece, that sucker had to be notched. And since it had to be notched, that tells me that this engine is actually taller than a Hemi. It had to be cut for a Pentastar, then it had to be cut for a 5.7, a 6.4, then had to be cut for a 6.2 with a blower on there, even with the bigger blowers from the Red Eye and the actual Demon 170. None of those cowls had to be cut. So I'm just saying, to my eyes, this is proof to me that the actual Hurricane is actually taller than the Hemi. But I did find that very interesting that the 5.7, the 6.4, and the 6.2 supercharged Hemi V8s with the actual blower stuff on there, like I said, are actually shorter in height and in width than the Hurricane, which makes sense if you really think about it, because on the passenger side, you got the water to the air intercooler, and then you got the piping that goes over the engine, all that plastic over the engine, and it goes over to the driver's side where you got 2 turbochargers right there. To me, honestly, if the 6-pack cars come out, and we gotta see how much room we have with a radiator, but if there is basically the same amount of room in there between a Hurricane and the actual EV drivetrain, if those things fit, I think a Hemi will fit too. We just have to worry about, like I said, the length, and given how big the Charger is compared to the last generation cars, I don't think it's gonna be an issue, but we'll see within the next few months. So I don't think space is gonna be an issue with the actual engine. So why not slot the Pentastar into the actual base Charger and keep it affordable, keep it in that 30 to 35K range? It seems like Stellantis' fired CEO Carlos Tavares might have wanted to push customers into higher priced models for higher profit margins because he wanted higher vehicle costs, lower volume of sales, because Stellantis was to become a tech company which would nickel and dime you on software updates throughout the life of your vehicle.
We are confident that we will achieve more than 4 billion euros in additional revenue by 2026 and more than 20 billion euros by 2030. And it comes with margins similar to those of tech companies. If the past was about increasing margins by moving customers north in hardware and trim levels, our future is about offering customers software-based services. Dodge is developing performance upgrades, launching actually next week, including driver-tunable software that will deliver an immediate horsepower boost while retaining the car's emissions compliance.
But now that he's gone, why not in the next year or two introduce a Pentastar into a budget Charger that get customers into the 30K range? But I think that maybe a 5.7 Hemi will return at a slightly lower cost than the cheapest Hurricane car. I've heard it costs more to produce a Hurricane engine than the Hemis. That's why I believe it's going to be an actual cheaper option to get a Hemi out of a Charger than would be a Hurricane. But I know the Hurricanes are supposed to be a very great evolution of Hemi engines, but literally every single video I see these vehicles getting off the line with these Hurricane engines, they look very slow until they get into boost. So I'm just saying. Now, 6.2 liter supercharged Hemi V8, I think will be able to fit in this car, and I think that it will be an SRT model in the next maybe year or two. Now, I know Dodge has not announced anything other than the Banshee as an SRT model, but I mean, let's be real here. The Charger Daytona EVs, their biggest problem is they do not feel like a muscle car. They try to sound like a muscle car, they're way too heavy, and reviewers are trashing it literally left and right. The Hurricanes, to me, in my personal opinion, looking at videos, they look slow, they sound bad, and it look like they'll melt on a hot summer day with all that plastic on top of the engine.
Seriously. Now, if that wasn't enough, and you're really quick with the math,
but a supercharged Hemi SRT Charger would bring real muscle car sound back to Dodge. Easily outperform the 550 horsepower Hurricane high output with over 700 horsepower that you'll get in the actual Hellcat version. It'll be lighter than the EV version, and it'll restore excitement back to the brand, even though it is an older engine. Now, based on these measurements that I found online, like I said earlier, the 6.2 liter supercharged Hemi V8 is actually shorter in height and width than the inline-six Hurricane. So the only real obstacle I see is either the firewall and probably the radiator and the mounting points, which I don't think the mounting points are going to be an issue because the Hurricane, the Hemi, and the electric motors were designed to be very modular, meaning that they can fit in the exact same vehicles in the same locations, just with different cradle configurations that they called out in the patents. Now, I researched this years ago, and I'm pretty sure this is going to be the case because I just saw this article by Mopar Insiders that the new Charger Daytona for 2026 model year may get an updated cradle to fit the new next generation solid state battery pack. So that's what I'm thinking is going to happen with the actual Hemi version of this car. They basically designed like a new cradle to fit the engine in there, and maybe had to do like a slight little adjustment to the firewall, and then bam, we might be able to get this to work. But long story short, if Dodge wanted to fit a V8 in this car, I think they can fit a V8 in the Charger if they wanted to. I honestly think now, after looking over all this stuff, that the whole BS of it won't fit because of the strut towers was probably covered by these engineers to cover up for the fact that the CEO of Stellantis did not want Hemis in this car. And so he did not want Hemi in his car because he needed to reach a certain metric in order to get a $25 million bonus for meeting like certain standards in his contract. So he had, by December 31st of 2025, he had to meet certain CAFE requirements. He had to meet certain EV requirements. So he had to like have a certain saturation of EVs in the market. So that's why he pushed EVs hard to force customers to actually buy this product. But now that he's gone, and now everyone is actually starting to come back to their senses, even though John Elkann was part of the problem, he's come back to his senses because now he's seen that this whole nonsense of Hurricanes and EVs aren't working. Now Dodge and Ram and all these guys got to scramble to get a V8 production back up and running at a plant. They got to get a V8 cradle engineered for some of these vehicles. They got to get cars crash tested again. They get emissions rechecked again. And I think maybe next year is when the first time we'll see this vehicle, because it's going to take a while to get something engineered for a cradle, the firewall fixed, crash tested, emissions tested, and all that stuff. That's what I'm thinking. Next summertime, we'll see like a 5.7 or a 6.2 in this car. Even if it's just a 5.7, that'd be cool, because you can go buy a 5.7 car and someone can Hemi swap it with a with either a Hellcat or a Red Eye or a D170 engine, and it should be compatible with the actual modules in the car. So we already know this is going to happen. Hemis are going to come back. We already know, based on rumors and leaks, that the 5.7 Hemi production is going to happen back in America at the Dundee Engine Plant in Michigan, and sometime this year in 2025. The beautiful thing about that is that plant is only about an hour and a half away from the Windsor Assembly Plant, where the new Charger's getting built. So there's a lot of vehicles they can put this engine back in there. Why would they move the Hemi production back to America if they're not planning to use it at those plants that are near it? I'm just saying, it doesn't make any sense to invest in reviving a Hemi unless Stellantis is going to actually use this in more vehicles soon. Especially when there's a certain president that's now cutting the feds from messing with these auto manufacturers and charging them millions of dollars in these nonsense fines for making products that customers want. You should always have the choice of what the customer wants and let the market dictate that, and not some old millionaire who's telling people that you should buy $100,000 EVs and you got to be stuck at home charging for like hours, and you be limited on range where you can go. So I'm just saying that maybe let customers pick what they want, and not a politician that takes your money and tell you what to do with your own money. So I'm just saying. So what do you guys think? Is Dodge going to reintroduce the Hemi Charger, or are they going to try to force feed you in paying overpriced Hurricane and EV powered Charger Daytonas? But let me know what you guys think, and until the next time, I'm out.